The man who walks alone is likely to find himself in places no one has ever been before. Alan Ashley Pitt Ascenders. Welcome back to the digital war room of elevated masculinity, Sigma Ascends. Today, we're about to run a full diagnostic scan on one of the most misinterpreted attractions in modern relationships. Why women are captivated, even obsessed, with Sigma males. This isn't about sunglasses and silence. This is about the deep psychological mechanics that make Sigmas irresistible. We're not recycling alpha-beta myths. We're cracking open the actual code behind emotional pull, psychological friction, and unpredictable masculine power. Get ready to challenge everything you've been fed about attraction. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why Sigmas dominate the silent corners of female desire, you'll learn how to stand exactly where they stand. If you're new here, don't just spectate. Join the ascension. Subscribe now and transform your blueprint. This isn't content, this is combat gear for the mind. 1. The shadow in the room. A Sigma doesn't chase attention, he makes it miss him. It's not by force, it's not calculated, it's simply a byproduct of his energy. Imagine being in a room where everyone is talking, boasting, pitching their worth. And then there's one man, not silent out of insecurity, but because he doesn't owe the world anything. That absence, that lack of need, it echoes. Women are instinctively drawn to contrast. In a saturated environment of men trying to impress, the Sigma's detachment is not emptiness, it's gravity. His silence doesn't say, "I'm nervous." It says, "I'm occupied by something bigger than you." That hits the psyche differently. Psychologically, humans, especially women, are tuned to notice what's missing more than what's present. A Sigma creates that energetic void, making women wonder before they even want. It's pre-attraction. That phase before desire, where curiosity becomes obsession. Let's get deeper. Most men use attention-seeking behaviors because they think attraction is a volume game. The louder, the more noticed. But the Sigma understands the paradox. The most powerful message is the one that isn't sent. The absence of need, the refusal to explain, the ability to be completely still in a world of noise. That's what makes him the shadow in the room. The key detail is this: his presence doesn't scream, it haunts. When a woman meets him once and he's kind but distant, warm but unavailable, it implants a question in her mind. That question grows into a theory. The theory becomes projection. The projection becomes fantasy. And fantasy is where obsession is born. Here's the truth most people miss. Attraction is not about answers, it's about questions. A Sigma never answers the question, "What does he want from me?" That unanswered tension turns casual interest into mental fixation. While other men are busy being available, the Sigma's absence creates a story. She starts imagining why he's distant. Is he hurt? Is he focused? Is he rejecting her? That internal monologue is actually her bonding with him in her own mind. And if he leaves, it doesn't feel like being ignored. It feels like something powerful was lost, even if they never truly connected. That's the Sigma's edge. He doesn't chase, he doesn't repel. He simply lets his silence do what words never could. 2. Uncoded male energy. Most men are plugged into a system. Approval loops, status signals, social programming. They've been taught, directly or indirectly, how to be acceptable, how to be liked, how to be safe. But a Sigma male, he's not coded like the rest. He's uncoded, meaning he doesn't run on societal software. This is what women feel when they meet a Sigma. They can't place him. He's not the nice guy. He's not the bad boy. He's not the flirt. He's something else, something unlabeled. That sense of not knowing triggers intrigue, and intrigue is attraction's ignition point. Here's the twist. This uncoded energy doesn't come from rebellion. It's not performative. It's not, "I want to be different." It comes from one fact. He never asked to belong. Sigmas are self-written. They've analyzed the system and chosen to reject it, not out of bitterness, but clarity. They don't react to expectations. They build from intention, and that's rare energy. Women don't obsess over men who chase society's playbook. They become obsessed with men who don't need one. The Sigma doesn't follow trends, hashtags, or validation. He operates on pure internal rhythm, and that rhythm is unpredictable to outsiders. Let's be real. This doesn't make him immune to desire. It just means his desire isn't dictated by groupthink or hormonal impulse. It's filtered through purpose. When a Sigma chooses, he chooses completely, but he doesn't choose often. And that scarcity breeds value. This uncoded state shows in subtle ways. He speaks in statements, not questions. He doesn't overshare, yet never feels like he's hiding. He listens more than he speaks, but his words land heavy when he does talk. His style is distinct, not trendy, but personal. These cues aren't lost on women. They notice but can't explain it. That's the magic. When energy can't be boxed, the mind keeps returning to it. It wants to solve the unsolvable, and that's why obsession is born. He doesn't make himself complex. He simply refuses to be decoded. 3. The mystery is not a game, it's the default. For most men, mystery is a tactic, a calculated silence, a scheduled response, a behavior they mimic from movies or dating hacks. But for a Sigma male, mystery isn't something he builds. It's who he is by default. Let's make this brutally clear. A Sigma doesn't hide to seem cool. He hides because he's focused, because his time is occupied by internal pursuits, mental clarity, personal goals, self-training, isolation that feeds his power, not drains it. This natural detachment creates a phenomenon that's often misunderstood. He's not creating mystery. You're just not the center of his world. And that's what causes obsession. Most women are used to being in emotional control, even subtly. They know how to read signals, nudge interest, and dominate the dance of attraction. But when they meet a Sigma, the usual signals don't work. The normal game short circuits. And here's the kicker. She doesn't even know if he's interested. He's kind, but indifferent. Present, but distant. Warm, but detached. And that psychological contradiction creates a vacuum. That vacuum becomes a question, and as we said earlier, questions breed obsession. She can't put him in a category. She can't interpret his lack of reaction. She can't guess what he wants. So she starts imagining. And that's when attraction becomes obsession. What's truly disruptive is that Sigmas don't just leave space for mystery. They create emotional ambiguity without trying. That ambiguity is irresistible. The mind doesn't like unresolved tension. So the woman keeps returning, emotionally and mentally, trying to resolve it. That's the real power. A Sigma doesn't confuse on purpose. He simply doesn't offer clarity when it's not earned. Mystery isn't a trick. It's a natural result of his internal focus and personal world being bigger than his need to connect socially. This mystery isn't superficial. It goes beyond what he says or does. It's in how he carries himself, how he doesn't explain, how he avoids performance, and most of all, how he remains calm in emotional turbulence. The more she guesses, the more she attaches. The more he withholds, the more she imagines. And the more she imagines, the deeper the imprint. 4. High voltage independence. There's a difference between being alone and being independent with intensity. Sigma males don't just not need people. They build empires in silence. Their solitude isn't passive, it's productive. This is the type of independence women feel before they even hear it explained. He doesn't brag. He doesn't post about grinding. He just moves different. Here's the thing. Most men claim to be independent, but you'll see them quietly seeking validation, attention, or at least being reactive to the female presence. The Sigma? He's not playing that game. He's disconnected from social dependency. That independence is attractive on a primal level, because it signals that the man isn't emotionally starved. He's not waiting to be noticed. He's not auditioning. He's already in motion, whether she joins or not. When a woman senses that she's not a goal but a bonus, it changes everything. She's used to being chased. She's used to being the center. But a Sigma flips the axis. He is the center, and that center is immovable. There's also danger in this independence, because when a man doesn't need, he also can't be controlled, and that creates a blend of excitement and fear. She knows she can't manipulate him. She knows she can't guilt-trip him. That loss of power is both threatening and addicting. It makes her chase harder, not because he asked, but because his sovereignty shines a light on her own dependency. The Sigma's independence forces women to upgrade or exit. That's why many obsess, but few actually win him over. 5. Emotional scar tissue. Most Sigma males have been through something: betrayal, abandonment, disillusionment, identity death. But they don't wear it like a badge. They carry it like a sheathed weapon. This scar tissue creates depth. You won't hear him trauma dump, but when you look in his eyes, you see that he's been somewhere dark and returned stronger. Women are highly perceptive to this kind of emotional complexity. They may not be able to name it, but they feel it. And in a world of surface-level men chasing dopamine, a Sigma's depth is like cold water in a desert. He's not reactive. He doesn't get rattled, because his pain has been alchemized into focus, and that transformation is magnetic. He doesn't seek healing from others. He's done the work alone, or is still doing it. This self-contained emotional management sends a primal signal: I'm not broken. I've been tempered. That quiet strength is what drives obsession, because most women aren't used to emotional mastery in men. They're used to emotional chaos, denial, or immaturity. But the Sigma, he's calm, not because he's unfeeling, but because he's already survived worse. This creates an aura of unpredictability, not in his behavior but in his emotional dimension. There's more to him than meets the eye, and she knows it. She wants to explore that depth, understand it, be the one who reaches him. That goal becomes personal, and obsession begins. 6. Mirror of insecurity. Here's a hard truth most won't say out loud. When a Sigma male enters a room, he doesn't judge, but his very presence is a mirror. And for many women, that reflection is uncomfortable. He doesn't flatter. He doesn't affirm for validation. He doesn't perform emotional labor just to make someone feel good. So what happens? Her insecurities surface, not because he triggered them, but because he didn't participate in hiding them. This is what makes Sigmas dangerous and addictive. They don't try to be liked, and that lack of effort removes the illusion of control. Women often say they want authenticity, but real authenticity disrupts their emotional positioning. When a Sigma doesn't chase, doesn't compliment, doesn't adjust, he becomes the still water that reflects everything she's hiding. That confrontation is jarring, but it's also deeply transformative. Some run, some freeze, some obsess. Why? Because being seen clearly without being validated is a rare psychological event. It breaks routine emotional cycles. She can't manipulate him emotionally, and that lack of control makes her feel something she rarely feels: vulnerability. And in that vulnerability, something awakens. It's not always pleasant, but it's unforgettable. And that's the Sigma's effect. He reflects without reacting, and in doing so, he triggers obsession without even meaning to. 7. He doesn't compete. He withdraws. In the modern social jungle, most men compete constantly for attention, for dominance, for status. They flex, posture, interrupt, and perform. But the Sigma male doesn't play that game. He has a different instinct: withdrawal, not warfare. Here's what most don't get. Withdrawal isn't weakness. It's strategic refusal. While others are fighting for a seat at the table, the Sigma is building his own kingdom. And that refusal to engage in ego wars sends a chilling signal. I don't need to win here because this arena isn't worthy of me. Women notice that. Deep down, they're wired to track social hierarchy, but even more than that, they're pulled toward the man who doesn't need the hierarchy. This isn't passive energy. This is pure power under control. He sees drama. He doesn't challenge it. He deletes it from his world. He feels tension. He doesn't escalate. He evaporates. He senses a trap. He walks around it without acknowledging it even existed. And that, right there, is why women become obsessed. They're used to men reacting. The Sigma doesn't. His non-reaction becomes the most powerful reaction in the room. Think about it. When everyone's trying to prove something, the one who proves nothing becomes the only mystery worth solving. This is next-level self-mastery. It's not indifference. It's calculated absence. And that kind of discipline can't be faked. The Sigma's withdrawal doesn't feel like rejection. It feels like redirection. Women chase him not because he makes them feel small, but because he refuses to play small games. And if she ever disrespects him, he doesn't argue. He doesn't punish. He simply vanishes. That quiet exit. It leaves an emotional crater, one that most can't fill and never forget. 8. Purpose that doesn't need applause. There's a reason the Sigma's life feels different. He's plugged into something bigger than approval. His purpose isn't for show. It's not curated for followers. It's personal, internal, and sometimes even painful. But it's real. Most men broadcast their goals to impress, to validate, to prove. The Sigma doesn't. He moves in silence, fueled by something the world can't always see. That invisible fire is what draws women in. It's in the way he looks at a task with deadly focus. It's in how he respects his own time. It's in the way he organizes his life around intention instead of attention. He doesn't seek applause. He doesn't explain his hustle. And that silence around his purpose makes him enigmatic. Women feel that, and it disarms them. They're used to men trying to impress them. But with the Sigma, the script flips. He's the one who's busy. He's the one who's scarce. He's the one whose time actually means something. And that scarcity, combined with purpose, creates obsession. Here's the key. Purpose makes a man unshakable. And when a man can't be distracted, manipulated, or delayed, he becomes untouchable in the dating market. She sees that his attention is earned, not given. And once she earns it, it means more than 100 compliments from lesser men, because his interest isn't emotional charity. It's a signal that she's compatible with his mission. And in a world where most men chase beauty, the Sigma chases alignment. That makes him dangerous. Because when he chooses, it's never shallow. 9. The anti-pleaser energy. People-pleasing is a pandemic, especially among men who've been taught that likability is everything. But the Sigma is anti-pleaser by design. Not cruel, not cold, just real. He doesn't bend, dilute, or soften just to keep the peace. His truth is non-negotiable. Women aren't used to this. They're used to polite men who avoid conflict, who overcompliment, who say what they think she wants to hear. Then comes the Sigma. He disagrees without apology. He sets boundaries without drama. He says no like it's a full sentence. And that creates an intense psychological shift. Why? Because women don't truly crave approval. They crave truth from a man who doesn't need them. The Sigma doesn't insult. He just won't lie to fit in. That raw honesty is jarring. It's electric. It's addictive. His refusal to play the approval game removes all predictability. And when she can't predict, she starts to obsess. He's not rude. He's direct. He's not selfish. He's sovereign. He's not detached. He just has different priorities. This energy shatters the emotional script she's used to. And in the aftermath, something else grows. Respect. And where there's respect, there's obsession. The immovable center. Every powerful man has one thing in common, an inner axis that does not shift. That's the Sigma. In a world where everyone is reacting to likes, to gossip, to pressure, the Sigma remains still, not passive, not numb, just anchored. This unshakable inner world becomes the source of his power. He doesn't need validation, not because he doesn't feel, but because he's done the work to build a core identity. And that core doesn't adapt to the room. It transforms the room. Women sense this immediately. Most men adapt their tone, opinions and posture depending on who's watching. The Sigma? He's the same everywhere. That consistency creates trust, even if it's uncomfortable. She knows that when he speaks, it's not performance. It's not manipulation. It's not salesmanship. It's truth, anchored, unflinching, calm. And that calmness in the middle of social storms is deeply attractive because it's rare. And rare things haunt the memory. The Sigma male becomes a reference point, a standard, the man she compares everyone else to. Because while others shifted, he stayed immovable. And what stays still in a chaotic world becomes the eye of the storm. Ascenders. Here's the bottom line. Women don't obsess over Sigmas because of their silence or style or rejection of norms. They obsess because a Sigma forces them to see differently, about themselves, about men, about connection. He doesn't demand interest, he creates gravity. He doesn't perform confidence, he embodies presence. He doesn't chase fantasy, he becomes the one that haunts it. And now you know why. So whether you're on this path already or just getting started, walk it with fire. Silence the noise, refuse the scripts, build from within. And if this breakdown hit hard, subscribe and stay locked in. We're not chasing trends here. We're building men the world can't define. Until next time, Ascenders, remain untamed, stay sovereign, and never ever move like the rest. This was Sigma Ascends, signing out.